2. On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks decided they didn't want to win a game against the Miami Heat. Some late game errors. Who had the biggest one? What was the reason why the Mavs lost to the Heat? We'll talk about that and more coming up.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
You are Locked On Mavs.
Great, Rusty.
Your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
No one's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Amazing.
Your team every day.
Still can't eat milk.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager at the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being an everydayer. Make it Locked On Mavs your first listen today. Subscribe to our free Locked On Mavs newsletter. Check the QR code in the bottom corner of your watching this. Check the link in the description to subscribe to the #1 Locked On newsletter. That's right, Locked On Mavs. Today's episode is sponsored by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use that code Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. And join me, as always, on the postgame prodigy. What you got for me? Slightly biased.
Oh man, getting a little too comfortable with these type of losses. So not as frustrated as we've been in times past because you just get used to them, I guess.
It's almost like when the frog in the boiling water, right? He sits in the boiling water, like he sits in lukewarm water, and then it slowly rises to a boil, and then the frog gets cooked alive because it doesn't realize when it needs to get out.
I have accepted it.
The Mavs lose another clutch game. They now have, I think, 6 clutch losses, the tied for the most in the NBA. They're 3-6 in the clutch right now. I think that one may have been 7. I feel
that's
like
shocking to me that they're not far and away the most clutch losses.
Pistons, Kings, and Raptors all have the same amount of clutch.
That's good. That's good company to be around right there.
Great company. Today's episode, we'll get into some of the good things that happened this game. PJ and Naji had more good games. We'll talk about Lively. We'll talk about some of the other good things we've seen from this team so far. And in this game, because it was a close one late, but we got to start with the end of this game. We've got to start with the reason why this game was a loss and why it went to overtime in the first place. So let's go all the way back to the end of the game, the end of regulation, because I think there was just a couple of plays that just really changed this game around. There was a Kyrie missed free throw late, which you're just not used to.
Yeah.
8 seconds left. Misses the first free throw, makes the second. It's a 2-point game. If he makes that, it's a 3-point game. Miami takes a timeout. Jason, the Kyrie missed free throw is whatever, right? Like, make or miss, but he usually makes them. But that was one part where very late in the game would have changed everything.
Yeah, I mean, you make that. Go ahead.
No, you're good.
No, I was just gonna say you got to make that free throw. But yeah, go ahead.
Then Kid puts in Dinwiddie, Grimes, Naji, PJ, and Lively on a defensive possession. Thoughts on putting Dinwiddie in there instead of, I guess, I don't know who else. I don't know who else he would have put. Probably Klay at this point.
Are we just gonna do the Dinwiddie part now?
We can do that. Let's do that after we do the PJ Lively botch switch, because the Dinwiddie stuff will take us a little while.
That was just a bad miscommunication. I mean, the Heat, I don't know. It feels like if we were just doing points by possession on ATO plays, had to be like 2.2.
Yeah, out of timeout, they were crushing the Mavericks. It just felt like over and over again. Not just open shots. It felt like they were getting dunks off of out of timeout plays. It just didn't feel fair for the Mavericks at a certain point. But so Kid puts in Dinwiddie. But Dinwiddie wasn't the one that made the defensive error in this instance. PJ and Lively botched a switch. PJ Washington was guarding Jimmy Butler on the inbound. Lively was guarding, I don't know who he was. I can't remember who he was guarding, but it wasn't Bam because he wasn't in. And they had a screen and a switch, and PJ didn't go with Jimmy, and Lively thought he was going to go with Jimmy. So Lively was 2 steps slow, like not even 1 step slow, like 2 steps slow on a Jimmy Butler backdoor cut. He gets to the rim, he dunks, and he may have gotten fouled at the rim.
Oh, he absolutely got fouled.
Though Lively hit hand, but Jimmy goes to the refs afterwards, and there's this hilarious clip that the Mavs broadcast picked up where Jimmy just goes, "That's a foul. That's a foul," over and over again, like 12 times in a row to these refs. And then Tyler Ford comes up to him and says something, and Jimmy, you can't see Tyler Ford's face, and Jimmy Butler goes, "What?" Like this, makes a face back at him. It was hilarious. But
I mean, it was absolutely a foul.
But That play ties it to go to overtime, and it could have been a win in regulation if Kyrie makes that shot, if PJ and Lively had messed up that switch, and that was a brutal sequence. But you mentioned Kidd putting in Spencer Dinwiddie and leaving him in for so long in this game.
You missed another sequence that has to be talked about because it's very reminiscent of another sequence that we had a huge problem with against the Denver Nuggets in that loss a couple weeks ago. The Mavericks, under a minute left, I don't remember the exact time stamp, but it had like 50 seconds, up one. A basket goes such a long way. You don't get inside the three. Your game the entire night was predicated on inside out.
Yeah.
You get the ball into the paint, and whatever happens, whether that's a post touch, whether that's a floater, whether that's drawing contact, whether that's kicking out, that's been your game all night. You don't get inside the three-point line one time because Spencer Dinwiddie dribbles the ball for 12 seconds, and then he passes the ball to Kyrie Irving, who then dribbles the ball for 10 seconds, and then shoots a very tough pull-up three that clangs off the side of the rim.
121. There was 3 missed Kyrie threes in the last 3 minutes of regulation where you just go, it was just like they gave up on the offensive possession. It's like they gave up on the offensive possession, didn't get anything going, and then Kyrie just had to take a three. And that happened a couple times in overtime too. But yeah, you're completely right. There were some really bad sequences. But Kyrie also 14 points in the fourth quarter got them there. Like he had not been great all night, and then 14 points in the fourth quarter got them there. So it's kind of like, all right, I don't want to really go after Kyrie too much, but I don't understand Kidd with Dinwiddie in this game. Dinwiddie did have some good moments, some good plays compared to the rest of his season. He got to the free throw line 5 times. I think that was positive. 5 rebounds, 7 assists. Didn't have any turnovers. Thought that was positive, but 1 of 12 from the field. Missed 9 threes. 2 of them were like heaves in overtime. And I guess one of them was a heave late in regulation as well.
That almost went in.
That did almost go in. That would have won the game too, which was wild. Yeah. But I just don't understand him putting Dinwiddie in a defensive possession and then leaving him in for so much of like all 12 minutes of the fourth quarter and all of overtime.
He played 22 straight game minutes in this after getting subbed in halfway through the third quarter. He played maybe a little bit better than that shooting stat line would show you, but unless you have a guy like Dinwiddie who's like your 10th man, 11th man, 12th man, unless you have a guy like that who's just like popping off, like Alec Burks for the Heat, right? If you have a guy like that, knocking down shot after shot, you keep him in the game, right? You got a player who's feeling it tonight, you keep him in there. The Spencer Dinwiddie stuff, it's not even fair to Spence to have him on the floor for 22 straight minutes. Like I would say that's insane for Kyrie. I would say it's insane for Luka. Like that's insane to me.
It was also a high impact position because he's handling the ball a lot. He's defending ball handlers on the other side too. It's not like he was this, like stand in the corner, 3-point set screens, like not do a whole lot kind of guy too. And so his role, you're right. It wasn't fair to him to put him in that situation. And I also just don't understand the decision tactically to leave him in that long and to not try somebody. I mean, Hardy was not good. We'll say that as far as if you're trying to decide others. But Klay Thompson played 30 minutes. And Spencer Dinwiddie played 28. I don't know if you give more to Klay. Like, who would you rather have in those ending moments? But it just felt so bad to have Dinwiddie in there to just like chuck up shots to, when he was driving, at least he drove in this game more. We talked about last game, like Dinwiddie just doesn't drive anymore. At least in this game, he got some of that going. Got to the free throw line a couple times, had an and one, which by the way was his only made bucket. Was that and one late?
I mean, you like. I could see the rationale. If I had to guess, here's where I think he's coming from. Kyrie looked visibly gassed by the end of this game. The Heat were going after him defensively, and Kyrie was just completely and totally gassed by the end of this game. So maybe the logic is, we need another ball handler, somebody who could just be a release valve for Kyrie Irving, somebody who can like bring the ball up and initiate offense and do things. But I mean, Naji can do that. PJ does that. I don't understand. It's like you go away from everything that works for Spencer Dinwiddie hero ball down the stretch. I like that. I don't understand the logic there whatsoever.
It was a tough one. I agree that Kyrie did look really tired and that the Mavs did need another ball handler and they had benefited from having multiple ball handlers. But now you have ball handlers in Grimes, in Lively, in Naji, in PJ. You've got a couple more that you can at least run some secondary actions to, but it was all just, like you said, this ISO The offense that you would play with Luka, right? Like you can't do the same things.
Yeah, Luka and Kyrie playing hero ball down the stretch is a lot different than Kyrie and Spencer Dinwiddie playing hero ball down the stretch of the game.
Very different. Coming up, let's talk about how the Mavs got there. Let's talk about that awful second quarter. And let's talk about some of the good things that happened to the Mavericks, too. We'll get into all that and more coming up.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by Skims. Okay, I got to say something about Skims. So, Skims, they sent us some underwear. And I wore them going hiking this weekend. And the whole time on my drive there, I was like, man, I'm actually kind of worried about these underwear. Are they going to ride up? Am I just going to have to do the thing where you wait till you're by yourself hiking and you like have to pull down your underwear like over and over again because they just keep riding up? And I got to apologize, Skims. I thought that about your underwear. I was dead wrong. They didn't ride up at all. Gotta love it. Gotta love that they stay in their shape, that they were actually great when you needed them, when I was hiking and sweating and all that kind of stuff. So go check out Skims for yourself and see if I'm right about this. Shop Skims Men's at skims.com/LockedOnNBA. Let them know that we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. And if you're looking for the perfect gift for the whole family, Skims just launched their biggest holiday shop ever, also available at skims.com/LockedOnNBA. That's Skims, SKIMS.com/LockedOnNBA. Skims, I love them. I enjoy them. I used them this weekend. Go try them yourself. Skims.com/LockedOnNBA.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. Appreciate each and every one of you for checking out the show. Check out the QR code on the screen or check out some of the links in the description below. You can subscribe to our newsletter. We're the #1 newsletter in all of Locked On. Keep us there. Keep subscribing to it if you haven't yet. And then also check out our Locked On Mavs Insider program where you can get text from me and Isaac straight to your phone. Subscribe to that as well. All right, Slightly. Let's talk about this game. Mavs lose 123-118. The Miami Heat beat them. And to me, it kind of felt like the Mavs didn't want to win this game because of some of those mistakes that we talked about before. That second quarter was so ugly. That was almost one of the things that made me think that this team, like, all right, we don't have it tonight. We're just going to kind of give up here because they were fouling all over the place. Their offense was bad. It was another just really rough stretch of this game where it's like, oh, if the Mavs are going to lose the game, it felt like in that quarter, it was part of it.
Yeah,
they went scoreless for 6 whole minutes from the end of the first quarter to the beginning of the second quarter when Kyrie subbed out.
Yeah, and their offense was just frantic all over the place. 8 turnovers in that quarter. That's where, having your go-to floor general helps out tremendously. But they still tied the court. Like,
I think I posted this in the middle of the game. Dallas is trying to let Miami take this game in so many ways. Like they're really trying to let Miami take this game, and Miami just didn't. And Miami didn't take it either, but it just felt like a really bad play from the Mavs. And yeah, you're right. They tied 23-23 at the end of that quarter.
And a lot of it, too, was Miami was awful from the free throw line tonight. The Mavericks early in this game, because they got better towards the end, but early in this game just could not defend without fouling to save their lives. Just beat on the perimeter too many times, like not enough ball pressure whatsoever. And when you compare, like, you got to remember when you compare free throw numbers and stuff like that, because I see that tossed around a bunch, there's a difference between you're posting a guy up and backing a guy down, or your paint points are like lobs or something like that. There's a difference between getting fouled on plays like that and just giving up straight line drives, because straight line drives is when you're going to foul a lot, right? You're like preventing a guy from getting to a spot. You're helping and you're a little bit late with the help or whatever the case may be. So that was a rough quarter for sure. And the Mavs were lucky that was even tied, because a lot of it had to do with the Heat going 6 of 11 from the free throw line in that quarter.
The free throws were a big deal because I mentioned this before the game. I sent a text to all the insiders that the Heat are 4-1. They're now 5-1 when Jimmy Butler takes at least 8 free throws in a game. And he took 16 in this one. He had a bunch. He had he had 12 in the first half. He was just getting fouled over and over again. The Mavs, there's times that they couldn't defend him without fouling. He was getting a nice whistle, but they also just fouled him a bunch in this game. He got to certain spots, and that was key. 33 points, and I kind of think that Jimmy Butler outplayed Kyrie to end this game, and I think that was one of the big changes, one of the big things that swung it for Miami too.
Yeah, and my AirPod cut out the last second there. Were you talking about Jimmy?
I said Jimmy outplayed Kyrie, and that was one of the big swings of this game too. At the end of this one.
Yeah, Jimmy was really, really solid in this one, and also picked up Kyrie on defense.
Yeah.
So we've seen this now without Luka, in teams that have like a gluttony of these type of guys. We'll just put a guy on Kyrie anyways. But we saw the Nuggets put Peyton Watson on Kyrie, and we see now Jimmy Butler pick up Kyrie. So especially without Luka, they're going to put their lengthier wings on him, and that's going to make life a lot more difficult for Kyrie Irving. And yeah, Jimmy was really good in this game, and the Mavericks just could not bid on way too many up fakes. I mean, that's just game plan stuff you got to know. Like Jimmy's going to try and get you in the air to get contact. Like that's part of his game. So
Daniel Gafford is still in the air on that one pump fake. He just jumped like 5 feet in the air. You're like, oh my gosh, how high in the air is he right now to block that shot?
Yeah, Daniel Gafford's still up there.
You mentioned that the Heat hunted Kyrie, and they did. They tried to go after him over and over again. This has now happened a couple of games in a row, especially when Luka isn't playing or isn't playing well. Are we worried long term that teams seem to be able to hunt? And I don't think Kyrie has been very great in some of these. Where in past years and maybe even the beginning of the season, I thought he was pretty good defensively. But are we worried that now other teams can hunt both stars at the end of games?
No, not overly concerned, really, just because it's concerning. Like, it's a smart thing to do for a team, especially when one guy's not there, whether Kyrie's out and Luka's on, or Luka's out and Kyrie's on. It just makes sense to wear those guys out defensively. And I think that was a big reason why Kyrie was gassed at the end of this game. It's a reason why forever we've talked about Luka, why you needed a guy like Kyrie Irving is because too much gets asked out of him. Teams make him work. Yeah. By the end of games, he's just completely and totally gassed. I mean, I'm not like, if Luka like doesn't play in a playoff series, then I'm really concerned. But the idea is both of those guys together are so good offensively, working off one another, that it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's like on offense, you can only double one of them. You can't double both. And then on defense, you can only hunt one of them. You can't hunt both. You can't hunt both, right? Like, there are limiting returns on that. I think I'm not super concerned about that. I do think, though, that it gets more exposed when it's just one of them or the other one playing in a game. I mean, for years we saw this, like you said, with Luka, when he was the only star, he would get hunted over and over again. Now with Kyrie is the only star, with Luka out, he's getting hunted over and over again. And that was tough. And I thought it was one of the reasons why they lost this game, because Kyrie wasn't super great on those switches, or on those, when he had to switch on the ball handler.
Yeah. And I mentioned the ball pressure not being good enough. Kyrie was a big part of that. Guys just getting past them way too easily.
I want to talk about one good thing here. Naji Marshall single-handedly kept the Mavs in this game at the end of that third quarter, because it felt like the game was starting to slip away from them. Kyrie subs out. It was 72-77. And then all of a sudden it was like 72-81. And then you're like, okay, here we go. The Heat are going to start to go on a run. They're finally going to start hitting threes and all that. And then Naji Marshall, corner three and one drive, corner three, finish at the rim, 10 straight points to make it 82-87. Now they're giving them up on the other end too, but they got no offense. They had no offense in the first time Kyrie subbed out. We mentioned that. The first time Kyrie subbed out, the Mavs lost those minutes 4-16 in that.
Yeah.
And so Naji Marshall just coming up with anything felt so big. And the Mavs actually won those minutes when Kyrie was out from the third to the fourth quarter. They won those 20-16.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely good to take away from this game. And one of the really good things from the last couple of games, that the Naji three ball starting to get there. And
he never makes one. He always makes more than one.
Yeah, he's got to make multiple. And you saw just like how many different ways Naji can contribute to a game. But yeah, man, the three ball really kind of gets there for Naji. It just with everything else that he's doing, that's really big. Really big.
PJ went 1 of 2. Klay went 3 of 5. Naji 3 of 5. I was like, all right, here we go. If these guys start hitting threes and Luka comes back, all of a sudden this team is so dangerous. Quentin Grimes missed all of his, but he's been hitting, really well. Kyrie's been hitting well outside of this game, and it felt like, all right, if these threes start going down, Naji starts shooting more confidently. Kind of with him, it does feel like he needs that confidence. He'll take them, but to take 5. That's a different Naji than we saw the first 10 games of the season. I think that is massive. Then him getting opportunities to finish at the rim, the floater, and all that has been really big for them. And I think big for his confidence to try and step out and take some of those threes.
Man, I just did some quick math. Kyrie and Dinwiddie combined to go 3 of 21 from 3 in this game.
Some good
So the
math
Mavericks
by
did
you.
not shoot well from 3, but I mean, you take out those two, it's 7 of 19, which is like still not a great number, but much better. Man, because when you were saying all the role guys who were hitting threes, I was like, man, they shot 25% from 3 as a team tonight.
Yeah, well then, and Grimes missed 3, Kleba missed all 3, and Hardy missed
Oh.
both of, or Maxey missed both of his, and Hardy missed both of his that they took. So that they helped with that. Again, your guards can't shoot. The guards can't. Kyrie, Dinwiddie, Hardy, and Grimes. Guards can't shoot at all.
This team misses Exum.
No,
so
here we go.
They do.
I know they do.
They miss him so bad.
Exum's sitting on the bench. He's like flexing his hand. He's like, rubbing his hand that's injured. And he's like, you know what? My spot's safe.
Yeah. Your spot should be safe. I can't promise that, but it should be.
Oh, it should be, because Kid wasn't going to go to Hardy. He wasn't going to go to Hardy in this game at all. Hardy made some really bad errors in this game. Missed a couple, missed some shots, and didn't look confident. He just went with rode. I wouldn't even say the hot hand. He rode the hand with Dinwiddie.
He rode the ice cold hand. He rode a hand. What was the name of the? Never mind. But what was I gonna say?
You ended that.
What we talked about.
You ended that like Dinwiddie when he took that 3 in overtime with a minute 57 left. He took that step back 3 with 17 seconds left on the shot clock. That was exactly how you just finished that.
I just don't. I mean, if you're like 4 of 6 from 3, take that shot. I don't. It's just I don't understand that really at all.
Brutal. Coming up, let's talk about some other things in this game. Let's talk about Lively. Let's talk about Gafford. Let's talk about some of the things we saw. And then I've got some concerns. About this team, a little more long term. Talk about that more coming up.
You don't believe you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook has all kinds of props and odds, things that you can use to get in on the action. Go check out FanDuel, see what's available for you. Tackle the NFL action with America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. I hope that if you were disappointed that the Cowboys won this weekend, you at least put some money on it and got some of that back, so you can hedge on your enjoyment of the NFL right now if you're a Cowboys fan. That Turbin return was insane. All kinds of stuff with the NFL. You can go check out some of the Thanksgiving Day games as well. You've got weird ones. Cowboys against the Giants. Cowboys are a 3.5-point favorite at home, so that one's interesting. So check that one out on FanDuel. Again, put down $5. If it's your first $5 and you win, you get $150 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Check it out on FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. We're also brought to you by Game Time. I love Game Time because I've used it a bunch to go to Dallas Wings games in the offseason. I've also, in offseason for the Mavs, but I go to Dallas Wings games in their offseason. That'd be insane. And I also used it for theater. I've used it for concerts, all kinds of things with Game Time. I love that you can turn on the all-in pricing, see exactly what you're going to pay at the end of it. Oh, big extra plug playing November 29th. That's this Friday at Southside Ballroom. I'm checking this one out. $60 on the floor admission. Let me just hold on while I actually buy these tickets. While I buy these tickets to go see this. All the kinds of other things too. You got sporting events, concerts, comedy, theater, and that. Go check it out. You can see views from your seats and all that at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use that code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right, Slightly, let's get into the rest of this game. Talk about some of the things, some of the notes from this one. Quentin Grimes, 2 of 8 from the field, 0 of 3 from 3, missed all of his threes. But I thought he did some really, really good things in this game. I was excited for him, and it was one of those games where if he had hit a couple more shots, I'd be pounding the Quentin Grimes drum a little bit more. But 7 rebounds, I thought some of them were really big, 3 assists, and they looked good. It was good things that he was creating for the Mavericks. Just thought he had a solid game besides missing some shots.
Yeah, and he was like one of the few guys who actually like fights over screens, and you don't just give up a switch the first time there's any ball screen or off ball screen. So yeah, Quentin Grimes I thought played well. I like his game. He does a lot for you. He's aggressive on the glass. I really appreciate that, going up and getting the basketball. Sometimes too aggressive. Like he had 2 plays in this game where he's like going up and some PJ Washington or Gaffer go up for a rebound and Grimes comes in and knocks the ball loose and you make an uncontested rebound much more difficult. But I do appreciate that hustle and effort because sometimes this team desperately needs that on the glass. So
you had you had that play in the first half where Maxey was trying to save the loose ball that Grimes caused, and then Grimes also tried to save it at the same time, and they both saved it under their own basket, and the Heat got an easy layup off of that one. Yeah,
that was just unfortunate.
There's definitely some frantic stuff there, but he's going out there and he's hustling, and there's some athleticism there that pops for the Mavs that they just don't have in other spots. So I think that was notable. We haven't talked about PJ yet. 21 points, 10 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals. Just over and over again, they just keep going back to him, and his little in the paint floater game and the stop and pop and the post up. They started the game again. Follow noted it on the broadcast that they posted up. He posted up Jimmy Butler and scored right on him right away. Like that was the first play of the game. He just continues to impress with that aspect of his game that I didn't even really know that much about when he first got traded to the Mavs, but that has been massive. And he almost played 40 minutes. Yeah.
I mean, I saw some people after Klay's for a couple nights ago, they were like, man, the Mavs got Klay to be this third option. He's not. I'm like, PJ Washington is far away the Mavericks' third option
right now. Yeah,
like he's pretty easily their third best player. And it is like, especially when teams, this is especially true when Luka's playing as well. But if teams are going to put their best defender on Kyrie or their best defender on Luka, and then their second best defender on Kyrie, whatever the case is, you're going to have a smaller player than you more often than not. 1 and 2, just a not great defender, and it's up to PJ to sort of make teams pay for that, and he's done a great job at it so far, and he was phenomenal tonight.
Really, really, really great. Dereck Lively played 30 minutes, didn't get into foul trouble in this game where there was a bunch of fouls. 2 fouls on Dereck Lively. One of them was a tech that he got, but 14 points, 13 rebounds, 4 assists for him, a couple of block shots as well. Jimmy Butler did finish a bunch of shots right on him at the rim. I was a little concerned about that, but other than that, I thought he had an excellent game in this. And then the botch switch with PJ, but a great game.
Yeah, he played well in this one. I love when the Mavs are an inside-out offense, and a lot of that has to do with getting the ball to Dereck Lively in the middle of the floor and letting him pass out of it, letting him kick out the shooters or whatever the case may be. So, yeah, I thought he was great. Did a good job not fouling in this game, and, good stuff. Good stuff from D-Live.
D-Live
starter campaign is strong.
Couple of concerns I have.
Long-term?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it's ever going to turn around for Maxey here.
Here's the thing about Maxey is you just know there's going to be a game in April, game 3 in the first round. The series is tied 1-1, and Maxey hits 6 threes.
We know we keep saying this, and we have defended him so much on this show. Like our comments are frequently frustrated with us not just calling him trashed and washed at a certain point because we haven't. But in this game, you're like, all right, it's been a couple of games in a row where he's just unplayable on offense. And defensively, he'll still give you a couple things, but the fouling the last 2 games has been really bad for him. He had 3 fouls in 9 minutes in this one. And you're just like, at a certain point, it felt like some of the fouls he was making, some of the things he was doing was he had to be over physical in order to make up for a lack of, a waning like athleticism and not being able to make up for it with other skills on the court. And you're like, oh, that's a brutal like realization and a brutal moment for him.
Yeah.
And the backup 4, so I saw somebody post the backup 4 minutes from going from PJ to Maxey is such a big drop. It's maybe the biggest drop off for the Mavs.
Agreed. And this is where either an Omax extension would have helped you so much, or if the Mavericks are active at the trade deadline, which they always are, that has to be the go-to the go-to need that you fix.
I had a thought in the middle of this game that I'm a little embarrassed by, but I just want to say it.
Say it.
I was watching Maxey in this game, and I was like, man, this looks really bad. And I was like, maybe they should just put Markieff in and just see what happens.
I mean, we talked about this a couple days ago. It was like, man, Maxey's been so bad. Like, honestly, he's been bad since he's come back from injury. And he doesn't give you much. At least he's big, At least he gives you some size and some defense.
Got some ability, yes.
Hardy, Hardy and Maxey sometimes when those two are on the court together and Hardy's not making threes or he's getting downhill, but it's out of control and frantic. and it just feels like there's no plan at all besides I'm dribbling to the rim and whatever happens. And Maxi's not making threes or really playing great defense, it's like those two give you next to nothing.
I really, really want to know what Hardy did last night.
I don't know. I don't want to go there.
In Miami.
I don't know.
Just would like to know the itinerary.
I don't want to dig into that.
the Dinwiddie Hardy Maxi trio is like you just can't play them together. It's just bad.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Exum has. I mean, we're really waiting for the Exum return desperately.
And we're making all these bad. They almost won this game without Luka. Like we need to keep bringing it back to this. That they almost won this game without their best player. Kyrie was gassed by the end of this. Their best player on the team was 3 of 12 from 3. The Mavs only shot 10 of 40. They had a shot in this game. To me, it's like if you want to take any kind of moral victory, it's that. But there was definitely some negatives if you want to focus on those. This is
why it's frustrating because there is such a good basketball team hidden in this team that is 9-8 currently, like one game above 500. Like there's a great basketball team here that has just had frustrating losses, frustrating performances, and also one thing we should say that we didn't mention: the Heat had 5 full days of rest.
This is a great point,
and it looked like it at the end of the game, in overtime at least.
There's no explanation. I looked everywhere for why the Heat had 5 full days off. There's only 3 teams this whole season that have 5 days off.
Oh, I know why.
Okay, tell me.
Apparently, a Shakira concert got postponed or rescheduled or something.
Did her hips tell you that?
Yeah, her hips told me that. I got off the phone with her hips.
All right, then it was the truth.
Shakira concert, and apparently
concert.
Here's what I saw. Shakira concert got rescheduled, moved from Casia Center due to demand, and NBA couldn't shift the schedule.
That just feels like poor planning. They put a Shakira in a smaller venue in Miami.
It's frustrating for Mavs fans, but the Heat have, this from a Heat fan, 3 back-to-backs in the next 15 days.
Yeah, but none of them are against Dallas.
Yeah, I'm saying it's frustrating for Mavs
I don't care about those.
That is why.
Mike Curtis from Dallas Morning News posted this image of the banners that are up there for the Heat, like the championship banners. The Heat had it. I'm pressing the button on this one. The Heat had a spotlight on the 2006 one. Do you think that this is intentional or not?
Yeah, of course. Of course it's intentional. Man, they have Dan Marino's number retired, I'm pretty sure. I don't know if it's retired, but they have his jersey.
Don't they have Jordan's number retired too?
They also have Jordan's number. I don't remember if it's like retired, or if it's in the Raptors.
Oh my gosh. Overall, like, you should feel okay about this game. It's frustrating that the Mavs lost, but I feel like I feel okay about some things that happened in this one. Like, all right, the things that I'm worried about are some late game execution. All right, they'll keep working on that, right? That, it's coaching and practice and all that. I feel concerned about Dinwiddie. All right, when this team's at full strength, he doesn't play. Okay?
Yeah, you'd hope so.
Kyrie was not great towards the end of this game, but 14 points in the fourth quarter, he got him there. So it's not like he was terrible the whole game and bad 2 games in a row, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm not super worried about some of the things. The long-term things, I'm worried about Maxi, and I'm worried about the backup guard minutes, I guess, in a way. Do we know what Fultz and Dennis Smith Jr. have been doing?
I don't think Dennis Smith Jr. makes much sense on this team, to be honest with you.
Not the way they're constructed. Fultz definitely does, but yeah, Dennis
would, for sure.
Dennis, I don't know if he fixes anything, unless he helps their defense so much that all of a sudden the offense doesn't matter as much. Because I think he might. I
don't think that's what they're lacking. They're lacking like a Fultz, who's like a.
But the thing is with Dinwiddie, they're just lacking. It's both ends. Like, all right, we could be marginally better on one end of the court. Then all of a sudden, all right,
they really like him, man.
I just don't.
They really like him, and again, I think they just wanted the ball handling because he did have some good drives and got to the free throw line and stuff like that. But
yeah, he had good moments in this game for sure.
You just can't get that sidestep 3 down 2 in overtime, 5 seconds into the shot clock out of my head. Like that's a shot.
It's those decisions.
Man, and it's a little like hypocritical of me because a couple nights ago he made a shot like that and I was like, man, it feels like he always makes those. Like, but man, when he missed it, he doesn't always make them.
Yeah, but he did it 9 times in this game.
Yeah.
There you go. Let us know in the comment section on YouTube and anywhere else what you thought about this Mavs game. And go check out the QR code for different ways to follow us, subscribe, and to support the show. You can do it by getting text straight to your phone. Subscribe to the Locked On Mavs Insiders. Get that one as well as our newsletter. So go check that out. Guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs. We'll be back. Slightly and I will have the post game against the Hawks tomorrow, and then more Locked On Mavs throughout the rest of the week. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. Peace out. Boom.
No moral victories.